This is the Waterloo Street goods depot, now more or less finished, or at least being tested by Bob to see whether it's going to do the trick. And you can see it's quite an extensive model, and quite a lot has been done since I last posted a video about the making of it. And this is it in Trains a New Era. And I've deliberately kept the roof lights as virtually transparent and translucent and most of the depot, and this shows the depot in the 1920s 30s, before the bombing during the Second World War of most of Liverpool's waterfront, the docks and everything, which got so hammered. Smashed most of this roofing here, and in fact later photographs show roofing having been removed completely. Now, to get some idea of the location, these tracks coming away here will go underneath the Liverpool overhead railway, which will be running along here down to where the loco is and beyond, but the loco itself is on the line that came from Edge Hill through the tunnel, which is over here on the right, through the depot, right through, leaving the depot here, crossing the road and going into the dock estate about here, and then heading on into Riverside Station. Now, I've kept the depot, this goods depot, as simple and straightforward as possible while keeping the very substantial structure. This is the oil street wall, which I used in my modelling to give me the basis of the brickwork for the depot, and this is the moulded stone, but instead of it being stepped as it went up, because this oil street rose, I kept it level just to make it much easier for us when we're making the full model, the full layout of the full route of the Liverpool overhead railway. And so let's set the little pug going. Here we are. So it's just going to chunter away here, running on the tracks into the depot, and it comes right into the depot here through the doors, and it works its way in between these uprights, some of which I've removed to ease for the track, so as not to foul the track, and let's give it a little bit more acceleration, and maybe a bit too much. Take it back a bit. And so it would weave its way through the depot, and of course we're able to look through and see the little loco going through the depot. And of course we've just got the basic ground of trains, and this should be all cobbles, but within the depot itself perhaps it should be concrete and some other sort of flooring like that. But if we just drop down a bit, you'll see that part of the depot, and I've taken this from the one photograph that we have, Bob and I, of this part of the route. I've modelled these pillars because we can see them from about here, looking this way, with a locomotive about to leave the depot. And so what I've done there is I've just modelled those and then made these fairly standard so as to reduce the poly count, and I've tried to eliminate as much in the way of internal detail. Though of course once the depot is in place, it's possible to, as it were, populate the platforms here with porters, with workers, and with goods of all types. But for the depot itself, that's sufficient, I think. And of course, good old trains, the smoke goes right through the roof. No way of doing that. Also, I've simplified the structure of the roof. You can see there's a cross piece and some supports which align with these pieces here in the structure of the roof. But basically the idea was to convey the impression of this very substantial depot, but keeping a small poly count. Let's just bring the locomotive to a bit of a halt here. and this was the line which the loco is on here, from which would then these lines converge, because the depot station throat is about here. There's a bridge that goes over first, and then entrance into the Edge Hill tunnel. Other aspects which I've done, which you might find useful when you're making your own substantial models like this, and you don't want to have them gobbling up the all the graphics availability of your graphics card, the memory of your graphics card, is that in order to do this, I've tried to repeat textures and processes as much as possible, and to simplify as much as possible the overall effect of the warehouse. So create the effect without absolutely hammering the graphics card, and especially this is important because the Liverpool overhead is going to be such a very big route with so many details and so many buildings and other structures, railways of course. The final aspect is you'll see here that the type of track actually changes at these points. Now this is where the fixed track sections are, and you can see they're actually, it's much clearer here, you can see they're actually standing up above the level of the track, which we want buried down into the cobbles as much as possible. So that's really at this stage. This isn't the final release version, but it gives you an idea of how I'm doing this in order to let Bob check it right out and to make sure everything's working okay, and indeed that the track avoids the columns, which I think it does. That's the closest spot there. We can go in a bit, I think. Yeah, let's just go into the depot a bit. So again, you can see straight away that I've made curves very straight line curves here, but there's plenty of room to add in all sorts of things if you wish. And I can see here I've still got a couple of glitches to overcome. There's a there, here. You can see there's still aspects which I haven't quite tidied up yet, so I've got to get that finished. Just bring those bits of wall together. So this is the sort of thing that Bob and I do to make sure that these models are as close as possible to the original. We've also got pillars buried in the wall here, which I think I'm just going to lose those because they're not really doing anything. And if we were to go further into the depot here, over by the loco, and let me just swing it round, you'll see that those pillars are actually part of the original structure that I had supporting this building up above. If we just come out, you'll see here there's this building which starts on the first floor level, is held up by these pillars, and it's part of the big warehouse structure. There's nothing actually inside that, there's no detail, it's just there to replicate the image from the outside. There's a chimney there. We have no details of the information about what was actually in the depot by way of buildings and structures, so I've just kept it as simple as possible. So once we've made sure that this is okay, then I shall replace these fixed track connection points for the normal track splines. I shall replace those with ones that match the dock rails that we're using, and then also we can release this as a model. It's obviously specific to the location and to Liverpool, to the location within the Liverpool docks, but it may be of use to for trainsers who want to have a go doing a route with a substantial freight depot with an exit onto the street here, and indeed onto the street here. These lines curve around. These will form, the dock rails will come across along this way. This is the Mersey Docks and Harbour Board line. If I go back to Surveyor, exit driver, we're not saving it, let's just go back to Surveyor, and let's just we'll lose the locomotive. It just causes complications when we come to, and I want to pick up the dock rail. There we are. These are just simply rails only type of track. And if I connect here, this is the way in which the Mersey Docks and Harbour Board main running lines, this is the way they ran along the street, and underneath, they were underneath the Liverpool overhead, which I just, all my own stuff here. Track with refuge, yeah. So the Liverpool overhead actually was, if I just get the angle of that about right, about 15 degrees, something like that. That's where the Liverpool overhead railway ran. So you actually had the Docks and Harbour Board line underneath. That's probably a little bit more, maybe 20 degrees. 18 maybe. And they ran into the Waterloo road goods. Straighten those up. I don't need it. And but then carried on down the road with the Liverpool overhead above, and then the line to Riverside Station just made a simple diamond, double diamond crossing straight across and into the dock estate, which came in here, and then it curved way round to the right here, and then swung away over to towards Riverside Station. Well, I've got some track down. I'm also, I've got some, I think I've got them handy here. Yeah, I've done some reskins of my own wagons, originally Great Western wagons, but because they were really handy for running on this docks estate, I've done some LMS and LNER livery reskins of 4 types of open wagon that I've done for the Great Western Railway. So the Great Western ones are there, available as well, and these ones will be available at my next, here we are, GWR. Oh goodness me, I can't even remember which ones they were on the GWR. I've got so much here. 4 plank, that's probably something like it. Yeah, so there's a GWR one. That's the GWR, and then the North Eastern Railway, LNER. I've just done that as a simple reskin. Similarly, these, and it's because these ones will take, and the same for the LMS, and it's because these ones, if we just go down to, we can load up some timber. Let's have a look there. Crates. So I can't remember how many it'll take, but we can put a couple in. Well, let's try 4. It'll take 4 units. There we are. Crates. So they're quite handy to have. And this one, let's see what that'll take. Sacks. GWR sacks. Okay, well, if it'll take a dozen. I'll take 4. There we are, fill it up with sacks. But it's mainly because these will take a mix of loads. It will take, we've got timber, milk churns, sacks, barrels. Those are, what's that? 24-foot pipes, pit props, 24-foot logs. There's a wide range of these general goods. Well, let's put some 24, put 4 of those and see how many it'll take. I'll take 1 of those. But I'd made these loads for these wagons, and this is the type of loads that were coming into Liverpool docks, manhandled by the dockers, of course, into the wagons, and then away down the docks and harbour lines, down to places like this goods depot, where they were either reshunted or transferred or moved across to other wagons. So these wagons here are designed to help populate the goods depot and the harbour lines. So there we are, that's the Waterloo Street goods depot for the Liverpool Overhead Railway layout, although it wasn't actually connected to the Liverpool Overhead Railway. That's represented by this one piece here. If I put another piece in, 10-foot refuge, right, there we are. It needs to be 18 degrees, and then you have to join it up with a bit of viaduct. I'll go with the viaduct. Then we go back and move this into position. Now let's stretch it out ridiculously. And just to position it a little more closely, there we are. And obviously this should have the track connected up above, and of course there would be more supports than that, but if we again go in and we do the, I guess I've got a lot of Great Western models. If we put the pug, there we are. So that gives us a good idea of what this docks line would have looked like, running down the street with the, or running underneath the Liverpool overhead, and there it is tailing off into the goods depot. So I hope that's of interest. That's the conclusion really of this series on the warehouse, the goods depot, and I guess it will be released in about a month or two after we find out all the little wrinkles, all the little problems like for those walls, etc. Once Bob has put the old fine-toothed comb over it. And of course what you do have to do is you have to, once you've got the track in, you do of course have to then put some buffers in. I'm not sure if I've got any plate weight buffers. They're not really suitable. I just put buffers in there. Buffer 1. There we are, that sort of thing. So you do have to go in, put the buffers in, and move them into position down the end here, and possibly even rotate them, I think. Look at that. Yep. And in that particular part of the depot there were 4 tracks, 2 serving platforms and 2 for storage. But again, that's why I've left these roof lights so clear, so you can see through, in fact you can zoom through and just make sure that that you can see what you're doing. These I would say would be, well, you can see there's all a mess. I haven't finished doing the track here by any means. There we are, straightening that up a bit. And these of course would be ideal places for putting in the, let's go back up here. Maybe you've got a whole load of LNER 5 plank wagons. A couple more over here. There we are, let's just push them together. Down here and there. Oops. So you really want to sort of populate these internal sidings, and presumably that's where the empty wagons or full wagons waiting to be emptied, whereas you would have a full wagon maybe over here with, I don't know, let's have some crates. We can get 4 lots of crates in, waiting to be unloaded. I've not been too worried about bringing the platform hard up against the wagon there. Really what I want to do is really create the overall impression. I don't expect these sidings to be used very much in the actual operation of the depot within trains, so they're more for effect than anything else. What else could we do? Well, we could of course, let's have a look here. If we brought in some cobbles, let's have a look. There's some cobbles, Roman cobblestone. My goodness, UK cobbles 3, that looks alright. Probably a bit big. Where's the scale? Let's take the scale down and take the radius down, and then well, even those are still a bit big, but they give you the idea. That's how you then fill up the inside of the warehouse. There we are. Hope you found it of interest, and it's the conclusion of those videos where I showed you how I was making it, and at some stage there'll be the revised final version will be available from my website, all freeware of course, probably March, perhaps into April.